OnceLost Games, the developers of Wayward Realms, released a gameplay trailer video a few weeks ago as part of their Kickstarter campaign, where they were successful in reaching their goal of getting 500k in only 12 days. In this video, we will go over the gameplay trailer, talk about the Kickstarter campaign, check out what the community is saying, and then end with Dreamtime as usual. So let's get started, shall we? They start off by showing the map of the archipelago and hover over the island of Ajar. This is the starter island that some of us will experience when the alpha version is out next year. What do we know about this island? Stretching 20 kilometers or 12.5 miles wide, the somewhat secluded island of Ajar is located far off the eastern coast of Sid. Though home to a predominantly human population, it falls under the Orcish jurisdiction and is ruled by a noble of the Orc blood. The big city of the island is Belfer Parva. It is home to a very old circular-shaped harbour guarded by two ornate guard towers that have long fallen into disrepair. At the harbour's centre stands a worn-down statue of an unknown goddess, simply called the Queen of Tides by the locals. Much Chufnel is a settlement that rests at a crossroads on the island. It's one of the few settlements not located along the coast. Many travel here for the cozy inns and the popular market district. Melhelm has historically endured the brunt of volcanic upheavals, and the inhabitants are deeply connected to the sea, engaging in activities like abalone diving, oyster fishing, and crab spearing. This is the map of Ajar. As you can see, there is a large ancient lake apparently protected by a water spirit, a huge volcano on the right, multiple settlements, and lots of mysteries to be discovered. Then they show a shot of someone sailing on a sailboat in atrocious weather. Man, I am so excited by the fact that the team is including sailboats in the game. I play this indie simulation sailing game called Sailwind, which has wonderful sailing mechanics, and you get to sail in all sorts of crazy weather. You need to monitor the wind direction, adjust the sails of your boat accordingly, and use a compass like the chronometer to navigate the open seas. I love that game, and if you're interested in learning sailing mechanics, I highly recommend it. I did ask the Wayward Realms team if sailing is a big part of the core game, and the developers replied saying that the core gameplay loop is getting a quest in town, going to a dungeon, getting loot, returning to town, turning in the quest, selling loot, buying and improving your equipment. But the boat can play a huge part in traveling to and from your destination. So it is important, but they wouldn't call it core. You can also hire a boat to take you where you need, and actually owning a boat is a late game thing. Also, right now the sailing implementation is very simple. The boat just moves forward when you lower the sails, but the team is working on wind simulation for a true sailing experience. If you can sail to every island of the archipelago without loading screens, that would be phenomenal. In the video, they did show Daggerfall's climbing skill in action, where the player climbs a wall using his bare hands. Amazing. Inside, we get a look at a goblin for the first time, a race that largely controls the underworld and more unsavory guilds, but their range of influence is far greater than one would assume due to their shrewd and cunning nature. We then get a good look at the dialogue system. We have the list of topics on the left and the persuasion system on the right. Man, I love keyword-based dialogue systems. A player can learn so much about the game world from such a system. I feel a topic-based system like what we see here and what we have in Daggerfall and Morrowind is far superior to a voiceover-based system which we see in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Skyrim. And yes, if you prefer every NPC to have voiceover, you won't get that here. We also see the persuasion system in action. I wonder if this is a skill-based system where the success of the persuasion is based on your etiquette, streetwise, or language skills, like what we have in Daggerfall. We then see a bit of combat, exploration, stealth, magic. We get to see an in-game book and encounter a boss who conjures more demons. Then the video ends. This was an awesome video. It showed the basic gameplay loop, and I kind of liked it. I would love to read your thoughts on the video and the stuff I spoke about. Will you enjoy the gameplay loop of getting a quest in town, going to a dungeon, getting loot, returning to town, turning in the quest, selling loot, buying and improving your equipment? Or do you expect more? Do you expect NPCs to have voiceovers? Did you like what you saw regarding combat? Yeah, share your comments and I'd like to read all of them. So the Kickstarter has less than a week to go. There are around 6,500 backers and they have raised around $600,000. They have met their goal, and congratulations to the team who have all worked so hard for this to happen. The first question I had was, is $500,000 enough for 1 year's development? Assuming you pay 10 developers $50,000, you have exhausted all your money after a year. Even $50,000 is low pay for such high skill work. I did ask the team and they said that many of the developers are willing to work for the minimum and some won't even be taking a salary in order to make the game a reality. Kudos to all of the developers here, and I hope this team gets a publisher soon and all of them gets paid because they deserve it. More than 150,000 people have watched the gameplay video, but there have been only 6,000 backers. A non-disturbed developer back in 2014 announced a campaign on Kickstarter for a game called Kingdom Come Deliverance. And that game hit the Kickstarter goal in 36 hours and got more than £1 million UK. So if a game from unknown developers can generate £1 million UK, then surely the team working on a spiritual successor to Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall can raise more funds. What is the issue here? Are people not interested in classic RPGs anymore? Are people more interested in medieval settings like what we saw in Kingdom Come Deliverance? Are they more interested in movie-style dynamic scenes and sword combat compared to magic, stealth and dungeons? Is such a game more attractive than a dungeon-delving RPG? I don't get it. Did the OnceLost Games team promise too much, and has that put people off? Has the marketing been lackluster? I don't see large platforms like IGN covering this campaign. There are lots of questions. What do you think is going on here? I think the upcoming sections may point to some answers. Right, the developers have been extremely proactive in the Kickstarter forum and on their YouTube channel. Here are some very interesting questions and answers by the devs. Let's get started then. Regarding the relationships and mass crowd system bullet points, does this mean that the player is able to approach one of the nameless crowd NPCs, start a conversation, and that character will now become a permanent part of their particular playthrough? Because that would be pretty awesome, something I wanted in an RPG for a while. You can pause and read the answer here. So the virtual game master essentially creates these relationships between NPCs and the player based on the player interactions. It's a very interesting system. I am very curious about this. Will it actually lead to some interesting encounters with the same NPC, or will it become too much? I think they need to get the balance right here. Will this game be voice acted? Also, what is the projected development timeline after the Kickstarter? No rush, but if there's a tentative goal, that would be nice to know. 2 years versus 5+ years would be nice for us to know and align expectations. Yes, so the developers clearly mentioned that there's not going to be voice acting, and you can pause and read. And it is way more cheaper to create a game without every NPC having voiceover, and especially if all of this is procedurally generated, then it would be impossible to create specific voiceover for every NPC. It totally makes sense in this kind of a game. Game looks awesome. Just a few questions. Will there be radiant quests in the game? Infinite procedural quests. What is the loot system of the game? Can you loot everything? Armor, weapons from the dead NPCs? Is it an RNG system like Cyberpunk? Radiant quests, yay! I enjoy radiant quests if they lead me to a cool dungeon and I can get some cool loot. I guess it's interesting. But the problem is, once you encounter the first repetition, that's when it hits you. Oh, AI. That's where the radiant quest system is flawed. But it'll be interesting to see how they implement it. I've just packed. Hope we can get the dwarves, and they are my favorite race. Also, I'm hoping to have an adventure type guild in game where you can fulfill bounties, go up in rank from bronze upwards, and the world recognizes these helpful heroes. On the opposite scale, I'm also hoping we can be the main bad guy, burn villages and towns. Will it be possible to end and enslave the world? Can we become the king and queens and control empires eventually? How much can I affect the world? Hope we reach all the stretch goals. You can't become a faction leader. And you have to, essentially you're an adventurer. Good answer by the team. I understand that the world is initially procedurally generated and is the same for all players. Will there be unique procedural elements for each game? Dungeons, villages, objects, NPCs, etc. Do pause and read this answer. Very cool. I hope vampires like Daggerfall are in game. What about were-rats? Do you intend to add to the game something like the Eastern cultures? Japan or China, for example. Yeah, this game is a Western European based adventure. But there are apparently 2 Asian inspired houses. House Rao and House Khan. Nice question and a good answer. I'm not sure how I feel about everything being procedurally generated. Will everything not feel soulless and generic? Is it not just a lazy way out of not designing a story themselves? Will there even be a story at all, or will it just be a random assortment of quests with no rhyme or reason? What distinguishes this from an MMORPG without online elements? Will the world change each time you leave and return, or does it stay static once you load the game? What about separate playthroughs? How can you expect to build communal experience with the potential for completely different circumstances among players? I mean, how will AI give you interesting quests, right? We all love quests that have multiple paths and multiple choices, multiple outcomes, but can the VGM actually generate such quests? So this is a very interesting answer by the dev, and they do understand this problem, so that's good to know. And do pause and read it. Okay, let's get to the community reactions now. This person is very interested in a massive living and breathing world where stuff happens without the player being around. Does this happen in Daggerfall? I don't know, but a very interesting comment, and this person is absolutely interested in a spiritual sequel to Daggerfall. This person is excited about Julian LaFay's tech expertise and Ted Peterson's world building and writing. Fair enough. Even I absolutely love Ted Peterson's writing and world building, so I can see the traction here. This person wants hack and slash and dungeon delving, and he's going to get it. Interesting comment. And this person is another old Daggerfall fan who loves Money Marco and all the cool characters of that game. So as you can see, a lot of hardcore Daggerfall fans are instantly backing this project. People who love the large scale of Daggerfall, the dungeon delving, getting amazing loot, improving weapons, hack and slash, they will love Wayward Realms. As for me, this is my comment on Kickstarter. I'm not the biggest fan of Daggerfall's dungeon crawling, constant fast travel, or the samey looking towns. I prefer outdoor exploration to dungeon crawling, and getting a ton of loot is not a huge motivation for me. But I'm a big fan of deep gameplay systems like in-depth character creation, large number of skills, classes, attributes to define and grow your character, spellcrafting systems. I see all of that and I want to explore them all. And then I'm a big fan of Ted Peterson's lore and world building. I just reading about the various races of the archipelago has already given me a lot of joy. If we get a playable build next year, I am more than happy to spend $40 to support the team. Even if I only get an alpha and the main game is like 6 to 7 years away and they don't get a publisher or whatever, I think I've got my money's worth. So that's my reasoning for backing the game. Now, there are people who are skeptical about this project. We should read their argument too and get some alternate perspectives. This person says it's disappointing. He says, relying on AI procedurally generated stories guarantees repetition and ultimately boredom. The driving tension between good and evil has been part of entertainment since the beginning of storytelling thousands of years ago. Without that, again, boredom. I'd be a lot more excited to read that the Wayward Realms has recruited a team of talented writers to create interesting stories for us to be part of. Oh well. This is a YouTube channel. The creator is known as Renfail. According to him, there were lots of issues with what OnceLost Games are claiming and thus decided not to back the Kickstarter. Let's listen to him, shall we?
I think everything they have looks cool, but the scope of what they're trying to accomplish based on what they've mentioned in the Kickstarter sounds way beyond a $400,000 Kickstarter. It's a $500,000 Kickstarter, which again is only meant to build a prototype, which is then going to be pitched to publishers. Now, the scope of what they're promoting here I have just this horrible, haunting feeling based on all the Kickstarters I've seen crash and burn over the years, where we see these games that are promoted with this massive, epic scope, and then as we start to see 5, 6, 7 years of development go by, they start, oh, that's scope creep, feature creep, got to cut that, that can't be done, that can't be done. The publisher's pushing back, they're not going to give us a $500 million budget, we're going to be given a $60 million budget, and now they're telling us $30 million budget. Trying to build something of the scope of what they've got presented here in the Kickstarter is a massive undertaking, well beyond what the $500,000 they're asking for is capable of producing.
I would say these are valid concerns and appreciate such critical thinking and being so open. I will link his video for all of you to watch so you get his perspective too. OnceLost Games did reply to his queries in the comment section. You can pause and read the reply from OnceLost Games. They are actually working on the mass crowd system, which will be capable of placing 500,000 NPCs without any issue. The team is confident about it in their testing, but Renfail asks for video proof of this internal tests, which is fair enough. And the OnceLost Games replies saying that they are working on a new video that will showcase that. Stay tuned. Great, phenomenal, can't wait to see more. So this is great. I'm glad OnceLost Games is actually responding to critical feedback, and the fact that we're going to get a video that will show this mass NPC system, that will be amazing. I look forward to it. Keep being forthcoming, transparent and communicative about the project. Don't ever change, team. Alright, we have come to the end of the video, and sit back and relax. We have Dreamtime, some of my favorite picks from the video, and Eric Heberling's amazing music. This is Magic Irect signing off. Until next time, may the gods of the archipelago watch over you.